Hi, everyone. Yep, my name is Chris Livett. I work for Metrolinx. I've been working for Metrolinx since 2009, and I generally work on the GIS and geospatial analysis side of things, but I am a nestled part of the planning department. So transportation planning is largely my focus, but I definitely want to give you guys a more complete picture of the ways that GIS is used at Metrolinx. So a fair amount of this presentation is actually going to be about what other departments use GIS for as well. So I'm going to do a quick run through of the 2041 of who Metrolinx is and the 2041 Regional Transportation Plan. I'll talk about the use of GIS and planning, and then, like mentioned, in other parts of the organization as well. Okay, so Metrolinx plans and delivers the transportation network across the Greater Golden Horseshoe. So that's the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, as well as sort of the next ring of municipalities outside that. So Niagara, Guelph, Waterloo Region, Barrie, and Peterborough, for example, are included within that area. Metrolinx operates Go Transit, the Presto smart card system, and Up Express. And we help, and we are involved in building rapid transit projects across the region, including the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, Finch West LRT, and the large Go expansion project. The region is facing a huge challenge. It's a very fast growing region, plain and simple, and we need to build a lot in order to just stay where we are, never mind trying to catch up to meet the transportation and mobility needs of the region. By 2041, the region is expected to be over 10 million people and with over a million extra jobs compared to 2016. And we're already well along the way. These trends, if anything, are small, are conservative. They're not, if anything, we're on track to even beat these numbers. And this isn't just a outside the region thing. Toronto might be largely built out, but still 20% growth of 3 million people is still 600,000 additional people just within the city of Toronto. That's still a lot of growth just within the city, never mind the large percentage growth rates happening out in the 905, like a 79% growth expected to occur between 2016 and 2041 in Durham region. So that's a lot of growth that's going on. And another part of the challenge is just the patchwork of transit agencies that exist across the region. That includes 12 municipal local agencies, as well as going up on top of that with different fare policies and transfer rules and all that. So it brings a lot of challenges. So these are the goals of the 2041 RTP. I won't just read through them, but they deal not just with mobility, but focusing really on about people and experiences and land use, not necessarily looking directly at just about the need to build more transit and transportation infrastructure, but to have a longer term perspective. And the 5 core strategies are delivering the existing projects, building more and optimizing the network as it exists, integrating land use and transportation, and as well as preparing for an uncertain future. The RTP came out in 2017, and definitely this past year and a half has been an excellent reminder about how we need to plan for an uncertain future. The mobility expectations, the mobility requirements of the coming years in this region are definitely going to end up being different than what we were expecting to be if you'd asked us 2 years ago. The core part of that plan is what we call the frequent rapid transit network. It's not just about things that run on rails and pouring concrete. It's about having all those pieces work together. And any GIS person can definitely relate to a graphic like this. It is just about layering those things on top of each other and how they need to work together. So that's how we sort of see it as well. You might have this base layer of your local bus networks in every municipality, but layered on top of that, we have all those important regional connections like GO, subways, LRT, and regional buses. So I'll be talking now about the planning department specifically and the type of work that my team does in the modeling and geospatial team. So our job is really to combine data analytics and storytelling in order to create and communicate transportation plans in the planning process. Communication really is the key and the most important thing that a lot of this work is really in support of. So here's a StatScan direct export of commuter flows between cities in Canada. Can you find a pattern in the data when you're looking at it in tabular format? It's impossible. No one can actually do that. But when you start visualizing it, you can start being able to see more of a story and being able to get more results out of that, like be able to draw more conclusions about what the actual flows are that we need to look at. And but then, even then you're still only getting started. It's a very complicated network of flows and trips across the region. Here's that StatsCan data. Sorry, this is TTS data, Transportation Tomorrow Survey data, which is even more fine-grained, and it's everywhere to everywhere in a lot of ways as well. So that's complicated. So we still need further tools to better analyze and understand the transportation needs. On top of this, the region is a diverse community with many unique needs. Here's a map of the top 5 mother tongues used across the region, and proper engagement needs understanding of this, along with the aging population, which has its own mobility challenges. GIS can help us better understand ways to work with those different communities. Income inequality is rising. GIS gives us tools to also help analyze and understand that, and the transportation investments, how they will impact different neighborhoods and what those neighborhoods are. Like mentioned before, there's rapid growth happening across the region, and that is inherently a spatial distribution thing. You can see, if you're really familiar, the black circles on the map are the urban growth centers, which are supposed to be the range of downtowns of growth centers across the region. And there is a lot of growth forecasts that, but you can also see how there's this band of green growth across the region. And that's just the farm fields, the urban fringe, where the non-infill growth is supposed to happen as well. So, balancing, understanding this distribution is absolutely key. I forgot that animated like that. So there we go. And another way of looking at things is accessibility-based measures. This is getting into a bit more advanced GIS usage and stuff like that in order to figure out, say, how many jobs can someone access by 45 minutes on transit versus 45 minutes of driving, and what is that imbalance? What types of job opportunities are people being limited to if they are only able to commute by transit? So that's one thing that we are looking more and more at as time goes on. And just, one other example about GIS analysis and needing to understand the impacts of different types of urban landscapes that we're building in. A dense urban environment, pre-war, pre-automobile urban environment, like the map on the left, that's Hamilton. Within a 800-meter walk, you'll be able to walk to most of that area. But on the right, which is at Promenade Mall in Vaughan, within a 800-meter walk, due to the curvilinear cul-de-sac type built form in those areas, much less of that area is available within 800 meters. So that's another type of way that we bring spatial analysis into our work. So not just in terms of the analysis, it's a large part of like my job and the job of the people on the geospatial team is really about finding the right data. There's a lot of issues always with reliability of data, where you can find it, how you can use it, the limitations associated with it. So, together between using those data, that allows us to bring together the analytics, which feeds into the planning and the decision. It's a base part that helps connect it all together. That's what our evidence-based informed decision-making process is supposed to be about. And that in turn is turning that data into that narrative allows you to communicate between those three parts as well, between decision makers, between planners, between the public. And that's an important part of our job as well. You can't just make the map or come up with the tabular data. It's about being able to explain it and figure out what that means on the ground and the implications. So in terms of data, we have internal data sources. We do surveys of go riders on the go sides of things. We do a lot of travel demand modeling. There's the other parts of the organization, go delay information, schedule information from GTFS, external sources, and external confidential sources like custom purchases from StatsCan. So a large part of the job is about knowing, when someone comes to you with a question, knowing where to find the data to answer that question. And fundamentally, the goal is, we're slowly working towards this in fits and starts, but ultimately helping to bring it all together into a proper analytics database to help everyone find the answers that they need themselves, not even trying to eliminate my own job in a way to help people use a self-service solution to be able to access these analytics and access this information themselves without having to go through the analytics group. And that will hopefully help expedite decision making in the planning process. And we do also have a requirement to meet the provincial regulations about big data. We do currently have a pilot big data site with a few sources on there, but we're still working towards getting more big data information online. I'm not keeping, be sure to remind me if I'm running short on time. I'm not keeping my eyes on the clock. Now, the biggest implementation of GIS across Metrolinx, and I'm less involved in this personally, is for enterprise asset management purposes. This is from 2014, so this is already 7 years out of date. But just think about how many train cars, how many buses, how many tracks, how many ties, how many switches, how much electrical wire, how many systems need to be maintained and kept track of by Metrolinx, a large organization. Back in 2017, the estimate of the assets owned by the organization was at 20 billion. But with the rollout of these new LRT lines, GO expansion, and other projects as well, that's expected to get to over $62 billion in assets that need to be managed. Here's an example of some of those projects that are, some of which are open. The Toronto-York Spadina subway extension opened in 2017. Mississauga Transitway opened in phases, while other ones are still under construction. And someone's going to need to keep track of all the assets in all these facilities once they roll out. So we need to be ready and prepared to do that. And that's what our enterprise asset management is all about. So their goal is to actively manage Metrolinx assets to the greatest benefit of the stakeholders and to optimize the life cycle costs of assets. And, it gets into a lot of things. There's a lot of overlap between enterprise asset management and different parts of a large organization, from human resources to finance to sustainability questions. There's a lot going on. So in terms of practical implications, I like this example, which is, say, a current workflow. A good example is a light bulb has been burnt out in one of the just light standards at a GO station parking lot. As of right now, the work process involves someone having to punch in, getting their work order, figuring out where to get the materials from, commencing their work, going out to the job site, picking up the stuff, doing the work, and they can do maybe one task like this over the course of an 8-hour workday. But with a proper enterprise asset management system, one that's digital, maybe accessible, out in the field using mobile computing, it's quite realistic that someone could be seeing maybe 2 or 3 tasks done in the same amount of time because of there being much better knowledge of what assets are available. Where do I go and get the replacement light bulb? Are we out of stock? No, we know we know exactly where there is one. We know exactly where the light standard is that has the light bulb burnt out. Right now, it might be Guildwood Station. There's a burnt out light bulb. Go find it. Whereas with this, hopefully it'd be light standard E12345 has this issue. It'll be much faster and more efficient and a better use of often limited resources. Life cycle cost is a big part of this as well. When does something need to be replaced? When should it be overhauled? Do we know the lifetime of those light bulbs? Maybe we can replace them before they burn out and actually make things more efficient that way. So, here again is some more examples of the impacts of enterprise asset management on terms of the work of a large organization managing these assets. And the impacts they can have. Regulatory compliance is a very large part of this as well. Standard railways are federally regulated. There's a lot of standards that need to be complied to, and enterprise asset management is a large part of that as well. Like I said, connections to a lot of systems, but let's just jump over that and look at the GIS side in particular. So the enterprise asset management system is in a system called Infor, EAM. But the locations of all the facilities are still stored in ArcGIS, in our enterprise ArcGIS implementation. Documentation is stored in OpenText. So fundamentally, we need to have all these different systems working together. It's not just about knowing where that light bulb is located, but also getting the documentation about maybe what's the design of that particular light fixture, how's it designed in order, what type of light bulb needs to go into it. Those things go into OpenText. So you can see the challenges definitely that are inherently part of making different systems like this work together. But once it gets up and running, it starts looking really cool. I got to say that. We call it the enterprise asset and record locator. That's about that GIS and the enterprise asset document system working together well. And now you can see that's the CN Tower at the bottom of the picture. That's a Union Station rail corridor right near the John Street Bridge. And the red lights are signals for the trains. There's little things look like little letter B's, lowercase letter B's. Those are blowers to heat up the switches so they don't freeze in winter. All that information is now in here and directly connected to the documentation associated with that. Literally before involved going through stacks of physical binders like this thick, flipping through to find the right page. And another nice part of that is as part of Metrolinx's Go expansion program to bring 15-minute service on the core parts of select Go lines. A large part of that work is being done by private sector. Metrolinx doesn't inherently have the huge staff of construction workers in order to go out and implement these projects. So GIS has also given the ability to share selected bits of information with the private sector partners, so therefore they can make a better informed bid when they're bidding on contracts, which will save money for the taxpayer in turn, because there's going to be a lot less guesswork involved. And finally, some examples of GIS being used in other parts of Metrolinx. I think this one's fun. GeoEvent is I believe, a Esri product. A number of geofences have been built and coded in at Go bus garage sites. So before, if a bus driver drove in and their bus was due for maintenance, you need to keep track of that bus between it being dropped off and being ready to be maintained, going into the maintenance stage and being maintained and being done, and now being ready to be used again. Before, someone would actually have to keep a spreadsheet and keep track of these things, or people would literally just walk around the site looking for bus number 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, now with using quality GPS and geofences, they can actually just tell where it is based upon its physical location of the site. Is it currently in the garage? Is it parked in the lot for buses that need to be fixed? Is it parked in the lot for buses which have been fixed? Made that a lot quicker and a lot easier. We use a lot of mobile for data collection. Survey 123 was an example of that for things like fare inspections, inspecting tracks and stuff like that. So a lot of mobile computing is done. And of course, individual projects themselves, a lot of ad hoc things as they come along. We're able to whip things together as long as we have the data. So here's an example of doing mapping to help us coordinate construction with the City of Toronto. And other things as well, track geometry inspection. The bottom right, we have a heat map of where issues in the track maintenance have been found. Unsurprisingly, they tend to be in curves, but that's kind of cool. We're able to, quickly see where those issue areas are. Keeping track of the properties that we own and lease and otherwise, and other tools as well. And of course, we're always looking to the future as well in terms of new tools and approaches such as Internet of Things, drones, big data, artificial intelligence, and other such technologies. All right. Thank you very much.